What does it really take to support a puppy's need, and how can science help us to do better? So I'm Dr. Anneke Bremhorst. I'm a canine scientist, dog professional, and the founder of Dogs and Science. And this year we are devoting each month to a central topic that matters for dogs and dog people who care for them.
And we're starting with where every dog story begins, puppyhood. I'm Jennifer Summers, social media manager here at Dogs and Science, and I hear from our community every day about the joys and challenges of raising a puppy.
To explore this topic really properly, we are today joined by someone who truly bridges science and practice. So she is a behavior biologist, a published researcher, and a professional trainer, Lisa Stolzlechner. For those who meet you for the first time, could you just briefly tell us something about yourself and your work?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really excited to be here. As you said, my name is Lisa Stolzlechner. I'm a behavioral biologist and also a professional dog trainer based in Austria, in Vienna. And my work focuses mainly on puppies and adolescent dogs and their development. And I originally came from the scientific side. So I did my bachelor, my master's in behavior biology. And I was very happy that I was involved in research on early puppy development and resilience. And then pretty naturally, my scientific interest merged kind of with practical training. And I'm now a trainer for about 10 years, but I started with the science before even my first dog moved in. And I realized very quickly that I need more skills on the practical side because dog training is a very hands-on skill.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's really exciting to have you here. And we know that you've recently welcomed a puppy in your life, Nanox. Could you tell us something about him, please?
Yeah, Nanox is the kindest and most fun and sweetest puppy on earth. He is how you would expect a puppy to be. So he's really lovely, sweet puppy. He is a golden lab mix bred especially for being an assistant dog and service dog, and I'm taking care of him for the first year.
And what is it about puppies, both scientifically and personally, that fascinates you the most?
Well, I'm very fascinated about what is already there from the beginning on. We know that puppies are not blank pages, that the behavior is shaped by a lot of things, but we know also that during the first weeks and months that the brain is developing and that we have incredible influence also. And we can, when we think about training, we can have punctual and thoughtful influence when they are very young and also during the first crucial steps till the end of adolescent phase, but especially when they're very young, even when they are at the breeders. And I see when I look at Nanox, the lab puppy over there, he is also trained since he is 5 weeks old. And that also makes a huge difference. So he had a lot of things going on, and I have the direct opposite. The puppy I had before, she was a Parson Russell Terrier, and she didn't have those things. And of course, it's a completely different breed and so on, but also the skills that a puppy can learn, she was missing.
Before we talk about these important topics and also topics such as puppy blues and everyday struggles, it's really important to understand how puppies develop, because as you said, they can already learn and they develop so many things already really early in life. So I would really love with you to start kind of with these foundations of these really early weeks in a puppy's life. So what do you think are essential things that guardians and professionals must understand about the early development of puppies?
Yeah, so puppy development happen in stages. And most of the stages that are very, very important happen without the future handlers or owners. So before the puppy is 8 to 12 weeks old, But from this point on, from when the puppy is moving, so when they are 8 weeks old, it's very important to know that this is a period where they are often easily frightened. And we need to be careful that we don't overwhelm them.
The behavior of puppies, it's shaped by early experiences, right? But also what it's shaped really by their genetics, by the behavior of their mother, right? But also the whole litter. So how do these different influences interact?
Genetics provide the baseline, and it brings up tendencies for boldness or caution, also sensitivity to stress and many other things. And also maternal behavior plays a role, and the mother's anxiety and stress, we know that this influences also the response with early measures of well-being and stress reactivity in puppies. So it's very important that we also look at the mother and not just the puppies.
Many people hope that the early behavior of a puppy, when they observe the puppy and visit the puppy for the first time, will tell them how the puppy will very likely be as an adult dog, right? Is the early behavior really realistically predicting of how this dog will develop as an adult? And what do you think, where are the limits?
I think it's very difficult to say that this specific puppy is developing that specific way. Great Stephanie Riemer found that exploratory activity, this is so basically how much a dog is moving in a test, that this is the only behavior that significantly correlates from puppy test to adult test, and all the other personality factors that changed over time. So I think the puppy tests are or needs to be viewed critically in scientific, or they are viewed critically in scientific circles, and they don't seem to be very reliable. But I have to say that in my experience as a trainer, there are tendencies that you can observe in puppies that can become problems later. So I see it with my own dogs, but also with the dogs of my clients, that some behaviors they show early can indicate behaviors that they will also show later. For example, the hunting style. So when a puppy is hunting, when it's 8 weeks old, then you can be quite sure that this is something that they also do when they're 1 year old.
Many kind of normal developmental behaviors get sometimes be misunderstood as problems in puppies, while it's all based on the biology. So what do you think, which behaviors are completely normal for puppies but are often misinterpreted by people as, or maybe even professionals, as problematic behaviors?
Number one is for sure the biting, the mouthing. Puppies just explore the world with their mouths. For them, it's completely normal and also important for their development. They bite when they are tired. They bite when they're overstimulated, when they're teething, or when they're frustrated. So also when they have emotional responses, then they are biting. And many people interpret that as aggressive or bold, and it's just completely normal puppy behavior. And even sweet angel Nanox puppy, perfect puppy, he bites. So it's completely normal, but you need to know that, and you need to know how to handle it and how to teach the puppy how to bite, or when to bite, and to bite into his toys and not into the human's flesh.
Even when you're well prepared and you adore your puppy and you may have even had a puppy previously, the first days and weeks can be really overwhelming emotionally, physically and mentally, and the experience is far more common than many people realise. So could you explain what the puppy blues are and why they're so common among new owners?
The puppy blues is described as new puppy owners not just experiencing joy and excitement when a puppy moves in, but also stress, exhaustion that's coming from not sleeping enough, doubt, was that the right decision, frustration, it's not working how I would expect it to work. And this was recently also studied. There was a study 2024 that developed and validated a first standardized puppy blue scale and showed what many people are going through during that phase, what I think is really helpful.
And what are the common feelings, thoughts, or symptoms that people typically experience during this phase?
It's exhaustion, and I also experience that every time I have a puppy. It's not normal for puppies to sleep through the night that fast. So many puppies need to go out potty, peeing, pooping in the night, and they're not used to sleeping through. And this can really be the most exhausting part of puppyhood. Also anxiety and worrying. So am I doing things right? Is this going well? And we also are now at the absolutely normal puppy behavior. What makes the people worry? Will stay like that? Will the puppy bite me in 1 year when it's 30 kilos? Will it bite me then as well? And also frustration, like when they see a behavior they don't like and they didn't expect, and it's problematic for them and they don't know how to change it or how to deal with it, then this is also something they experience. And also self-doubt or guilt. So am I doing things right? Am I good for my puppy?
And for anyone who's watching who might be going through the puppy blues right now, what would you recommend to help them cope both emotionally and practically?
I think the most important thing is that we normalize those feelings, that it's that many puppy persons going through that, and that we shouldn't be ashamed of it or having guilt, that talking about it helps, maybe talking to it with other puppy owners and realizing it, that it is a phase.
Now that we've looked at the science behind early development and the emotions of the first few weeks, let's move into the part that most new puppy families feel most intensely, the everyday behaviours. What are the most common challenges you see in young puppies, and what do these behaviours actually mean developmentally?
Is probably the thing that a puppy is picking up everything from the ground, old garbage, and it's also something that is developmentally completely normal, that puppies explore the world with their mouths. And also the other thing is frustration in puppies. So the self-regulation part of their personality is not developed yet, or just very limited. And you can teach the puppy to learn how to control their impulses and help them regulate after some frustrating events, but that takes time.
Sleep is an underestimated part of raising a puppy. How important is sleep, and how does a lack of rest affect behaviour, learning, and emotional regulation?
Good behaviour definitely needs good sleep, but we also shouldn't stress ourselves out and force a puppy to sleep 20 hours a day. There are dogs who simply have a lower individual sleep requirement. And I moved away saying that every puppy must sleep 20 hours and that we have to force them. Otherwise, problems will occur, because good sleep always correlates with the puppy's needs. And maybe this puppy doesn't need that much sleep. And sometimes also puppies are too bored because people think, they need 20 hours of sleep, and then that is not working for some dogs.
Young puppies often go through fear periods or temporary regressions. How can owners recognise these phases, and how can they support their puppy through them?
A typical puppy fear period can be recognized by a sudden appearance of that fear towards things that were never really an issue before. For example, the neighbor's trash. Also, familiar sounds can suddenly trigger something during this time. So I would always manage through that phase if that occurs, and to protect the emotional safety, so I won't do a lot of new things.
Now let's talk about alone time training. What is realistic and humane for young puppies, and what should owners avoid?
They need proximity and security, and also alone time should start with tiny positive moments so that we encourage them to go some steps further.
So Lisa, now we talked a lot about your also practical life and work with puppies, but you also did science. You also did actual research on puppy and puppy development. And I would like to cover this a bit, the studies you worked on. So you did a study on resilience in puppies. So could you please explain what resilience really means and what the goal of this study was?
Resilience means that through small stress inoculation, you can help dogs to cope with stressful situations easier. So the idea in our study was that early exposure to mild challenges or manageable challenges for puppies might help them to handle better novelty, loud noises, and problem-solving tasks.
So did you see an effect?
So I went to 12 breeders and we split the litter in half, and half was the treatment group that received those exercises and half was the baseline group that didn't receive the exercises but same time with me as experimenter. And at 6 to 7 weeks we did a test where we found out that the treatment group were bolder towards the novel object and showing greater willingness to approach and explore unfamiliar items. Also very nice that the startle response to a loud noise was reduced, and also they recovered more quickly. And in the problem-solving task, the treatment puppies solved the task faster and they also showed higher persistence.
Did you see this effect also after some more time? So as far as I remember, you tested them, some months later.
We didn't find anything. We found some litter effects and also breed effects, and there I find a few explanations for that. So we had just covered 3 weeks, and after that, so after the 6th week, both groups experienced the same normal socialization. And we should have just continued, or for sure we should have continued those exercises to see a long-term effect. And probably the genetic and litter effects, they were just stronger. They had a stronger influence over long-term behavior than this short early intervention.
Interesting. So I'm sure we will cover your study in more detail also here with the community because it's so interesting. Based on this research, is there anything you want to share with breeders or new owners? So what should they do?
They definitely should do during early socialization period gentle, age-appropriate exercises and challenges. They can do mild noise exposures and gradually make it louder. Also, novel objects presenting really helps the dogs when they get to know some everyday objects. When they're so small, also they can do little problem-solving games. And this can build or builds early resilience, and the subtle reactivity can be lower through that.
That was really a fascinating study. And you did another one, a bit a different topic, right? On gaze alternations. So for everybody watching, could you just briefly explain what are gaze alternations in simple words and why is it important?
So gaze alternations are when a puppy looks back and forth between an object and a person's face within a short time, so about 2 seconds. So when the puppy is checking the object and then looking at the human, or looking at the human and then back to the object. And this is seen as a communication signal, like the puppy saying, look, I'm trying, can you help, or can you see what I'm doing? And this is what we found in this study, that they do it when they're already 6 weeks old.
So finding out that puppies already show this so early, so what does it tell us about early communication?
I think almost 70% of the puppy did it in a novel object situation. And this shows us that they try to communicate to us humans and so early and not just in older dogs. And this is might due to the fact that it's genetically inherent. But of course, those puppies are also very good socialized.
So is this something that trainers and also guardians can kind of use or use this knowledge for their life and training with the dog?
Yeah, of course. And this is so nice. The puppies are trying to communicate with us so early, and we can use that in everyday life. I'm just thinking about helping them to pee and poo outside. The puppy's trying to communicate, and we want to teach them to communicate with us that it needs to go outside. So we can just use this looking to reinforce that we can take the puppy out when it does that.
Would you say if we don't respond to this behavior that the dog starts to kind of reduce or show it less?
Yes, as definitely, because they're trying to communicate, and when the signal is not received, then the puppy eventually will stop doing that. Yes.
Before we move towards our final section, we want to look at something that shapes a puppy's life long before they ever arrive in their new home, which is where they come from. What should prospective owners look for in a responsible breeder or a responsible rescue organisation when choosing a puppy?
Well, a responsible breeder rescue prioritize welfare of the puppies and health, and building a personality of the puppy that is capable to deal with stimuli and surprises of our world. So that means that the puppy grow up in a clean environment, and they have regular human and other animal contact, and also they get exposure to everyday life in small steps. They also do careful health decisions. Also, they have some veterinary care for the puppies and age-appropriate weaning, and no separating of the puppies very early. Also, a sign that they are responsible is that they ask a lot of questions. So you should ask a lot of questions when you're interested in a puppy, and the responsible organizations or breeders, they also should ask a lot of questions.
What early experiences should puppies ideally have had by around 8 weeks to support healthy development?
At 8 weeks, they should have experienced regular, positive, but also neutral interactions with humans. Also, the exposure to everyday sounds and objects would be great, like we talked before. Also, different surfaces and maybe challenges. Also, handling, age-appropriate and health checks. And what I find very important are opportunities to learn basic emotional regulation, like resting, short separations, like also learning to sit before a person comes into the crate.
On the other hand, are there any early experiences or environments that breeders and rescues should avoid completely?
I think anything that overwhelms a puppy's coping abilities. We don't want fear-based learning, but most of the time it's too much, too soon things, so that the environment is just too chaotic for maybe a very sensitive puppy. That constant novelty is coming, that many guests are coming, that people live in the city and they go with the public transports too soon for their puppy, loud noises, etc. So it needs to be adjusted to the puppy, and also it depends a lot on the environment. So if you're in the countryside, you can go further more quickly than when you are living in the city.
And sometimes a puppy isn't the best fit. When might an adult dog be a better choice than a puppy, especially for families considering a rescue?
Well, when a household has limited time and energy, and there's not the structure there for raising a young dog, it just means a lot of work. And although Nanox is the perfect puppy, it's very time consuming. And Many adult dogs, they already have skills, life skills. And I mean, they might be not house trained yet, but they can do other things that a puppy can't. And so I think when you not want to take the responsibility of teaching the puppy everything and you don't have the time and the energy, then you should take an adult dog.
And finally, the early socialisation window moves quickly. What responsibilities do breeders, rescues, and new owners share during this period to set puppies up for long-term well-being?
They can do a lot of things like provide the foundation, the breeders, so the exposure, the connection, and make sure that the puppies stay safe and curious. And the owners, they can continue this work in best case, and they don't need to start from the scratch on.
I want to come back more to the science again, because science is also the foundation of your life and work with dogs, right? So how does science shape your work kind of in practice? And why do you think science or the scientific foundation is so essential?
I think science protects dogs. It helps us to understand what puppies actually need and not what we think they need. So they give us a hint what their needs really are. And scientific foundation, so I come from the scientific. My Bible was Learning and Behaviour from Paul Chance. I don't know if you know that book. And there's all the learning theory. And this is the base for me to build up everything we are teaching dogs.
Science is kind of progressing. We have so many studies coming out. Of course, we have many questions that are still open, but how do you keep up yourself with kind of all the new literature who appears, and how do you apply it to your programs?
I try to stay up to date and read reviewed studies. I also attend conferences and talk with colleagues. And when something new emerges, then I try to look at what I'm actually already doing and if I can adjust that. For example, the new findings about staying home alone. So when there is something practical I can take out of some papers or study that's done, then I'm happy to do it.
Would you say maybe addressing this, is there kind of a specific scientific insight or a study that really changed your approach, or that you think is really important to support puppies?
Well, I adapted my programs due to new findings. For example, the fireworks study from Dr. Stephanie Riemer, it made me realize that it's so important to really talk about that with the people, because otherwise no one is doing it. In March, doing something with a puppy that is firework related. No one is doing that. So that helps a lot, that I know that it's working and that it's important and that I can tell that my clients. And also some newer studies for separated related behavior. I also try to look at that and to adjust my training.
We often talk in Dogs and Science also to be open-minded as a science-guided professional. So why do you think it's so important to be willing to also question our own assumptions?
Being open-minded means that we question things, that we never stop learning, and that not our ego is the most important thing, that we say, yeah, I know because I'm 10 years, I'm a trainer and I know how it works, so that we stay curious and ask questions. And what for me is also very important, that we prioritize welfare over tradition, and it always worked.
Let's quickly talk about the future. So if you could teach every new puppy owner something, just one science-based insight that would make biggest difference for this dog, what would it be?
That's kind of more your science field, Annika, because I think body language and emotions, that we humans recognize it and can support our dogs according to their body language and emotions, is the one thing I would teach people with dogs.
I mean, of course, it's a topic that's very close to my heart. So thank you so much for suggesting this. And looking at the field kind of more broadly, what, with regard to research, would you love to see in the coming years, or what are questions you would love to be addressed?
I would love to know more about it, how puppies can learn to handle frustration and arousal and also recovery, because we know that high frustration scores are related to problem behavior. So understanding how we can support them early or prevent them even could also prevent many behavior problems. And that would be a field where now there is some focus on. And I'm very happy about that. And I hope that it will develop further. And also maybe supporting the human side. So maybe also the focus on the owner emotions, expectations, and all the mental load. So when we talked about puppy blues, that is also something that would be a great thing to study in the future.
So across the field, we see so many positive developments from experienced trainers evolving their practice to really new professionals using kind of more scientifically guided practice. So what makes you really feel optimistic about where the field is heading next?
I hope that the combination of training experts and scientists will allow for the experimental testing of preventative advice, that we have assumptions that it works.
I like to ask you our kind of final question that we ask everybody. So why do you love dogs and why do you love science?
Well, I love dogs because they are so unique and they understand us humans better than any other animal. And I also value them for being a dog, and I see them what they are, as not automatically the human's best friends, but also the independent beings with their own needs and personality. And it just fulfills me greatly to support the people as they bond with their puppies. So in this process, and concerning science, I'm always very vigilant and keep an eye on the new literature to adapt my training and try new things and confirm my methods.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It was really such a great honor to have you here and to listen to all the amazing knowledge and expertise that you have, so both scientific as well as practical. So your insight, I'm sure, will help a lot of puppy owners, guardians, and professionals to understand their dogs way better. So this is really just the beginning of our Dogs and Science Puppy Month. And over the coming weeks, we will share videos from wonderful nanas and also more science-based insights and practical tools inspired by our conversation with you, Lisa, today. So follow us on social media and join our newsletter to stay up to date with everything that we've planned and prepared. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see you in the next video.